Welcome to What the Theory with your man Joel. I'm Joel, and today I'm joined by a reprobate.
A what?
A man. You know, the Bible says that all of us are, sinful and dirty and deserving of saving grace.
I
of
just
Christ.
don't know what that word means.
So a reprobate. You just look in the mirror. No. Today I'm going to be talking to Nelson Muhire. What's the correct way to pronounce your name? Because I hear people say Muhire and people say
Well, there's
Muhire.
how I pronounce it. I don't know if it's correct. It's Muhire.
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 Nelson Muhire, who I have known for years. It's a long, long time. And he is, what do you describe yourself as? The lead, the provider, the team lead
leader.
for the collective, usually?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Team
So,
lead.
yeah. So
That
for
works.
today, we're going to talk about this man's
You can
life.
also call me the shepherd.
The shepherd. I refuse to call you.
I have the beard for
Never
it.
refer to you as something that powerful. This is the guy who works at the collective. Anyway, Nelson, thank you for making the time.
Assured, man. I'm still thinking about this skull, though.
So this skull, people have asked questions about it, right? So this is a birthday gift, and it's because I'm old. The person who gave it to me was reminding me that I don't have a lot of time. So I keep this here to remind myself that I don't have a lot of time, so that I make good use of my time.
Gosh.
Yeah, but when my boss saw it, he asked me if I've killed a child. He said, that skull is very tiny.
It's very small.
It's very small.
I don't think any child has.
Yeah, but size doesn't matter. When it comes in the grand scheme of things, because the universe is so large, that's what I'm saying. We're all small and
This is problematic already.
all small and insignificant.
Let's start over.
All right, yeah, let's. No, let's keeping this in. So, Nelson, what are the most important things about you?
That is a very strange question. Most important
No,
things
just
about
okay. If you were to say three things about yourself to people who've never met you before, what would you say?
About me personally?
Yes, you.
Or about things that involve me?
You can pick from whichever basket that you're in as a basket.
Well, I am married. I'd be in trouble if I didn't start with that.
I was thinking you're going to start another jazz. Oh, I like music.
Yeah, well, I do, but so I'm married with 3 kids. That's very important.
How long have you been married?
9 years, almost 10.
Oh God, you've been married
Yeah.
almost a decade.
Yeah, can you believe that? And you're still not there yet. Anyway,
And some of us were listening to Saint Paul
what?
when he said, it's better you don't marry. But if you're dying with desires, why don't you? So,
Well, I was dying. And so I did the thing,
okay.
and it was very rewarding because we got 3 kids out of it.
Clearly.
Great. Yeah. Anyway, there's that. My faith is very important to me. I don't know how to exist without it. You said 3 things.
Yeah. So you've talked about you're a married man, you've got a family, you've talked about your faith.
I also talked about my kids.
I put those together
That's one thing.
as one.
Okay, I'm a
as one
family
entity.
guy.
Yes.
Okay. Faith. What's the third thing that's important to me? I love people. You're a person.
Sometimes.
I love people. I love it when I help someone succeed at something. That's always very rewarding. That's very important to me.
The best thing about you is that you never lead off. I asked that question in an interesting way because I've never had you lead off by talking about what you do. You talk about what you care about, usually, which I find very interesting. Like what you care about, eventually, you do the things that you care about, but you don't talk about what you do as a definition, as a sort of label for yourself.
I think it's also what I do is a thing I'm learning to value. I struggle to see value in what I do, although I value the outcome of it when it's good. You know what I mean? Like if you said, hey, you play the guitar, and I play the guitar, but it took someone else to tell me that that's the thing I could say about myself. Like, oh, I play the guitar. They asked me, what do you do? And I was thinking, okay, they're asking about academics or like what, but the things I'm good at doing, it's been a struggle learning to say that those are things that are valuable. So I think that's where it comes from, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, we had this conversation years ago, and I think it was this is how I'm going to show that I've not been reading the Bible for a while, but that the fivefold ministry, the whole thing of the pastor, the prophet, apostle.
This kind of conversation gets people in trouble these days.
No, I know.
All right.
At the time, when we were in HOP, House of Prayer.
Yeah.
House of Prayer. I remember you said that you felt that you were called to be an apostle, to start things.
Yeah.
Do you still feel that way? And do you still think that that fivefold approach is... Okay, I'll tell you my point of view. You can. I felt that at the time that fivefold approach was everyone struggling to find out where they fit in there.
Yeah.
And at some point when I was in dance ministry, people were like, dance is not a ministry. And the reason they said it was not, it was because where is it? It's not here.
It didn't fit the five.
But the people who are doing it felt like, well, no, but we think we're contributing something.
Yeah, I think the problem was like how it was brought to us in those days. And maybe we brought it to ourselves or something. But there's a guy called Mike Breen. He has this book where he talks about it in a slightly different way.
Is that the guy of bang?
No.
Oh, okay.
Although your mind likes thinking about banging things, but...
The NBA.
Yeah,
it's banging.
But...
Back to the Bible.
There's another Mike Breen.
Okay.
This guy is British.
Oh, okay. He's what?
British.
Okay.
And he relates those 5 ministry roles to things that you could understand in the corporate world, where your apostle is your typical entrepreneur, a starter of things. Your evangelist is like your marketing department or your marketing guy. Exactly. Do you think I remember the rest? No, not really. But your prophet is like your artist. They package the message, in a way for people to receive it. Who did he relate the pastor to? It'd be like human resource or something, like a people person. Anyway, I don't remember most of the others. I'd have to reference the book directly. But when you think about it that way, then there becomes a difference between like a gifting and a calling, or like a responsibility. Because we could harvest beans to feed a family or to run a business. So like the gift, you're playing the guitar, it gives you access to certain opportunities, and for another person, access to different kinds of opportunities. And I felt like for me, at least in those days, I felt like I had been given lots of opportunities to start things or to accelerate some things. And so when you think of those 5 roles, that's the one that I related with the most, because it always felt like everywhere I was temporary. Like at some point this will end. So even when we did the HOP thing, like it used to run at the back of my mind like, this could end, right? And that will be weird because it had become very definitively. And so now we're doing collective, and I keep thinking this could also have like a transition. Not an end per se, but like it will evolve and new things emerge out of it. All of these days I find myself teaching a lot. And I don't know. At the end of the day, I just concluded it's God who calls. Ours is we obey and we do the things. And then the people who observe will say, oh, that guy did this, that guy did the other. And that's the only thing that matters. I wonder if David walked around saying, do you know that I'm super important in God's agenda right now? It's weird. It's a weird thing to say, right? But you live your life, the story gets told, and then people say, that guy did this, and he was a this, he was a that. I think that's a better approach.
So, I mean, I like the way you said that. I used to say that there's no point putting a period where God put a comma. Like for you, maybe saying I'm this, full stop. But
Yeah.
you know, you never know what
Yeah.
what is evolving or what's happening. So I want to go back to uni. What did you study for undergrad?
Well, there is what I didn't finish studying,
Yeah.
which was the civil engineering, and I was great at not doing it well. And I did sound engineering in Sydney, Australia.
Sydney, Australia.
Australia.
What? Okay. For me, that period was, you were the first person I saw who you didn't have a direct answer for. I'm not going to do this, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
But you just knew what you were not going to do. So I think in part, this is my reading of you, is you understand the feeling, especially when you're young, of not knowing what your calling is, or looking around you and saying, should I just do this because it's, well, I've done sciences, I'm going to end up here, and this is what people do, versus trying to find something for themselves. And I know it wasn't an easy
It was very difficult.
transition. Could you
So,
talk about that?
when
Like,
I
what
was-
led you to actually going, I don't think I'm going to continue with this civil engineering course?
So, I didn't actually say that or get that epiphany. What happened was I was flunking very badly. I had like tons of retakes.
Because we're in the closet making music. That's a very interesting sentence. We'll explain it. I'm not going to leave it hanging there. I'm going to explain
What happens is I'm on campus and I'm flunking. And so, after lots of really tough conversations with my dad, by that I mean like conversations that are very unpleasant and disappointment, you know, I'm disappointed in you, no, kind of conversations. Eventually I man up and ask if I can take a dead year, which he allows. That's back in 2000 something, 2007. And so what happened was, in that dead year, I started experimenting with the recording thing. So that's when we started doing the closet thing and what, but not as a means to an end or like a new path or anything. I literally have nothing else to do. And that's a thing that I'm very keen on experimenting with. I didn't think it's valuable enough. Someone else had to say, hey, this thing is good. That was Tom Nightway. Anyway, so exploring that, so we start doing the HOP things, it gains some momentum, people like the songs, then I go back to campus.
clarify, we're recording music, and when I say that,
Yeah.
it was really a wardrobe.
Yeah, those things where you put clothes and hangers.
And I think in the entire house, people had to not be moving,
Yeah.
saying anything.
Yeah.
Because then they would feature in the song.
So after that dead year ends, I go back to campus and I'm still flunking. So when that semester ends, my mom gets my results before me because my brother was working at the university. And then she calls me, I'm at church at that time. I think we're like getting ready for camp or something. And so my mom called and she's like, I have your results. And then the joyride is coming to an end. Because, oh gosh, we're back in the ghetto.
Yeah.
You know, is the vibe I'm getting. And she's like, do you really want to finish this? And I'm like, not really. And then she asks, what would you rather do? Now, if she had asked me that question when I was getting the dead year initially, I wouldn't have had an answer to that question. Because I was thinking about this very recently, that when I was applying for campus to go into civil engineering, my dad asked me that question. He said, what do you want to do? You don't have to do engineering. You can do anything you want. What is your dream? Apply for your dream. And that whole sentence, like everything he said, sounded like a trap. It all sounded like a trap, but like I was just thinking about it recently and I was like, you know, he did give me the opportunity to think about it. But I don't know if it is my naivety or our culture or what, something about me never explored answers to that question in those days. To me, I mean, I think it's like, you know, from top class, you know, you're going to P1, from P7, you know, you're going to S1. There's the social pressure to apply for a certain type of school. I don't know if it still applies today, It's more dynamic these days, but in those days it was deep. You had to go to like the biggest traditional schools to fit in with the crowd. I'm in Budo, I'm in Smack, you know? Yeah. Like when you're introducing yourself at church, yeah, I'm in Smack, you'd be like, these guys are feeling me right now. I don't know if that counts these days. So,
pardon, what's cool?
So it only made sense that after S6, you need to do something that makes sense on campus.
Yeah.
Now, my dad is an engineer, my big brother is an engineer. It was like obvious that the next thing is to do some kind of engineering. That's when you're successful. And that's really the reason I applied for that. Not that I dreamt about it, not that it was. I reached there and things didn't work out. But yeah, that's how I ended up getting out of it. I flunked out of it. My mom gave me the opportunity. During that dead year, I spent tons of hours in internet cafes learning how to make music.
Internet cafes used to be these places that people would go to access the internet. For those of you born in the year 2000.
And the year 2000.
No one's born beyond that.
Yeah, so I'd spend lots of hours in the internet cafe doing Facebook and finding articles that could help me understand why my beats are not as nice as the beats I'm hearing from other people. And so I learned a lot of stuff. I became passionate about it. And then the fact that some of the work I was doing was gaining actual momentum, even though I didn't think it was any good. It was just very intriguing, very fun. And so when she asked that question, I had an answer at that time.
So if not for the dead year, well, it sounds to me like that dead year allowed you to just explore. You just like trying different things and you gravitated to something. So now you knew, well, I really like this.
Yeah.
But up until that time, you had been also doing music, but you had always thought of it like a
hobby.
No more than a hobby. So you just feel like that, it had never entered your mind to go, oh, I can be a musician. Is it because of like the, how to put this? Like for me, in the social cultural class that we were in, you just don't say you're going to become a musician.
Yeah.
Like, people are musicians because they are struggling and they have no other option.
Yeah.
But you, well, I mean, maybe you can play music on the side, but you become an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer. Was that the...
Honestly, I don't think I was intelligent enough to have those kinds of thoughts. I was just like a kid, man.
Just doing your thing.
I don't even know if it was a thing, like, it's just the next step. There's like an ignorance to all of it. And so most of it was like, okay, that's the next thing, you know? That's the correct next thing to do. There was no real critical thinking behind it. How I started playing the guitar was like purely passion, like, oh, there's a guitar there. I know some music theory. Let me see, does this work? Yeah, oh, I love this, let me learn more. And the thing that was driving me to learn more was pure curiosity. And you're curious about a thing and it's starting to make sense. And you're like, yeah, this is cool, this is fun. But none of it was strategic or anything like that. I don't know, I wasn't intelligent enough like that.
All right, fast track a little bit. I think HOP really was I mean, you obviously played in band, in church, you had mechanics.
Yeah, we used to break dance.
Right? Break dancing and all of that kind of stuff. But I think HOP, that was the first time I saw like what you had as your vision, and you had, well, it was really your friends coming together to build.
So I had a dream.
Yeah.
That's the thing I dreamt about. Actually, is what happened. So in Essex, in Green Hill, Joel is cracking all the jokes behind me and those types of things. So one night, I have this really vivid dream where in this room, there are many people in the room. I'm standing on the side of a stage. There are these guys on stage, they're singing songs, and it's very obvious to me that these are songs we wrote. And so when I wake up, that dream is so like in my mind, like that was a really interesting dream. And at the time, like today to think about such a dream is easy because there's so many examples of it. But you have to understand at the time there was no YouTube, there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter. There was no point of reference for this dream. It just existed. And those songs that we wrote, so it was so obvious to me that this is a very interesting dream. So I go and talk to Sam Achoka, that was our scripture union guy. I tell him, man, I had this weird dream. It was like this. And he's like, Nell, that's what I've always thought of you. Well, those days no one called me Nell, but yeah. So that dream stuck with me. And so go through S6 VAC, it was constantly playing, like that's a thing I need to do. And so when I got the courage enough to say, hey, let's start a band, it was coming from a thought of that dream needs to become a real thing. I remember I talked to some guys in those days. There was a guy called Daniel. I told him, hey man, I have this dream of like starting a band and we're going to do original songs, it's going to be new. And he was like, there's nothing new about a band. Like, bands are the most normal things. People have been doing this for a minute. Oh God, I was like, wait, there's actually nothing new about a band. But in my mind, it was new, you know? And so that's how we started HOP. I talked to Sharon, then we start calling guys. It becomes a band of 50 people. You know, because leadership is also not a thing that was important to me. At the time, I didn't enjoy the idea of it. So yeah, most of it was growing calves and what, but there was a dream in there that became kind of a vision, I could say. But it wasn't like very strategic still. It was kind of this prodigal existence of a thing in my mind. It's extravagant, it feels wasteful, and yet it feels like it must happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, then obviously you went to uni. All of us, I think at the time, I used to wonder, I was like, well, what's going to happen when we've all left in university? Because being in uni, at least you had...
You're so together.
Yeah, you're together, you're interrupting band time or time together. Because a lot of the time was even not just like playing music, it was getting to know each other, it was going to different... I think having those different performances in different places also builds some kind of camaraderie and sense of understanding of each other.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, at the point when we left and now we have to go and get our jobs, if that wasn't going to be
the end of things.
Yeah, the death knell to everything. And for some period of time, like when I even came back, I was thinking about you and wondering when you come back from, what your plan was when you were coming back from Australia. Was it, I'm going to come back and we're going to kick off from where we left off?
Yeah.
And obviously that you didn't. It took a different shape. So could you talk about that Australia experience and then coming back and then how, you know, what had left as HOP and what had become, I think, C19 as the recording studio, where that started changing?
So like, first of all, going to Australia was huge in terms of like mental, how you see things, how you imagine things. Because you hold on to an idea. See, the thing is, like, the Australia thing came in just when the band was starting to look like it's going somewhere. You know, hey, we're going to open for Kirk Franklin. What? We're going to open for Papa San. I'm like, gosh, like, this thing is gaining momentum and I'm leaving right now. You know, it felt like such a bad time to leave. Yeah. And that's when I left. And so,
bye guys.
Yeah, so it was so weird. And the thing that made it weird is that I didn't know if I was going to leave for certain until the day I left, because there was always something in the way. Anyway, so leaving, you go to a first world country for the first time. It is an experience like no other, because it shows you how unaware you are of things. You know what I mean? Like, the world is so big and so fast and so capable of so many things, but being like born and raised in a third world space, you don't know. You just don't know how fast things can happen or how possible things can be. And that's the thing that happened in my mind when I was abroad, is I saw impossible things being possible. Today it will sound like a lot more normal, because some of those things are available, and also like just the social infrastructure online makes you have a bit more access to those. But like, the idea that I could put money in a machine and to give me change was so weird. Like, how is it counting? How is it?
Witchcraft.
In those days, it was so weird, man. Anyway, that was like huge mentally, like it was a lot of learning and exposure. So coming back, I came back with a much more focused vision, you could say. But how it would play out was something I was going to learn, that things work out differently from how you imagine them. I knew that I wanted to do something that would be useful for young people. I knew that the band that we had was going to be a huge part of it. What I didn't know is, first of all, how long it's going to take, how disappointing the journey is going to be at several points. Those are things I didn't know. So, I mean, coming back, I had like all this energy of can do, everything is possible. And I brought it in and had started by like overcoming the hindrances of my friends who don't have the same can-do vibe that I've just gained.
Man, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I remember we went for a Crystal Mean concert. And so I'm standing at the back with Tom Okech, and I'm telling him, because at this point I'd been around for what, a year? And so like when I was abroad, that was like a multiple times a week experience. It was a general church experience. Like that experience of Crystal Mean on the stage and this music. I was going to church on Sunday because I was going to Hillsong. So I'm standing there having that experience in my rear view. And I'm telling Tom, you know, all of this happening here right now, we can recreate this kind of energy, this kind of experience. It's a doable thing. And I know how. And Tom is a very positive guy. He's like, yeah, we should, you know. Now, Benjamin Nduga, for him, he's at the front, all right? And he's having the time of his life. So at some point, we call him, I'm like, yeah, we're at the back here with Tom. So he comes to where we are. And for him, you know, it's like, yo, I've never felt that kind of energy before. And I tell him, you know, we can do this. We can recreate this kind of, and he's like, it can't be done. It's impossible. Exactly. Because him is like, you'd call it like a realist. He sees things as they are. And so, you know, there's that tension of things. And that was the now present reality. You're like, I know what's possible. I've seen it happen before. I've participated in it. If we believe in it, we can all create it. And that guy doesn't see, several people don't see it. And so it became the new experience of how do I get people to buy into this impossible idea. And that was a journey. So eventually, when we start shifting from HOP band to the collective UG, which was like 2014, end of 2014, there's a bigger vision, more inclusive, where we realize that as a band, we're not going to achieve that. We can only achieve that as a movement, with more people involved, with more change coming in, the guys who were around at that time buy into the idea. They're like, we go. But now, because there are more people coming in, there's more belief or unbelief to overcome, you know? And so you're trying to make a thing happen. We're trying to record songs in the studio to make the thing happen, but you're still trying to convince people that it's possible, it's possible, it's possible. I underestimated how long it would take until more people say it's possible.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Did you, I would imagine it might take a toll on you having to be the one who's, for me sometimes I feel like I have to now remain positive. I have to now keep the vision going. So when other people are losing their gas, I'm like, no, we can keep it going. But then in my private moments, I'm like, so I don't know if this is good. So in those moments, what kept you, this movement is happening? And
I think one of the things is I don't have many alternatives.
You didn't have like backup plans?
I don't have a lot of backup plans. And the ones which I thought I was creating, they had significantly more complex obstacles for me. In the questions that need answers were way more difficult for me to process. So I kind of exist in a space of this has to work. If it doesn't work, I don't know. But then also, there are a couple of people who start to come in the moment of quitting, and they tell you things that show you that this thing can work, or it's valuable. I'll give you a recent example is we were at Oasis Mall in a church. We're just gone there like a lunch hour, me and a few guys to just sit down and pray and catch up on stuff. And so when we reached there, I met this guy. He later on told me that he had come to meet someone else, but the person he come meet wasn't there. So I meet this guy in there, and I just got him and say, "Hey, what's up? My name is so and so." He tells me his name. He's like cleaning up. I'm like, "Hey, we're just going to sit here. Me and these guys, we're going to just pray a bit. If you feel like joining us, join us." He's like, "Cool." And so we sit down and we start talking, singing, and praying. And then he turns and he has this curiosity about us that he starts to approach us curiously. Until when we start talking to each other, he says, "Hey man, I just want to tell you guys something." So it's like, he's been looking for our group. Because when he saw me, he said I looked familiar, but he wasn't sure if I was the one. But when we started singing and talking, that's when it became clear to him that we're the ones that he was looking for. So a few years ago, his wife had dumped him for some South African dude and left the country. Like, he went through this kind of crisis of life. His business was failing, and so he committed to killing himself. But then, in the process of him being curious about how to execute the self-execution, on YouTube, he finds one of the songs we had done. It's a song called Home. And he begins to listen to it, and he begins to cry. He begins to feel like he has some value. And so he says that that moment helped him have a mind shift and start processing life differently. And so at that time, this was like maybe a year and a half since those events transpired in his life. So he'd been looking for the guys who sang that song. Because like, these guys are Ugandans, they should be findable somewhere. And so that day, he's telling us this story while he's in like waterfalls of tears and what. And so it's moments like that, because before he came and joined us there, I was probably going through a moment where like, okay, this is not working, that's not working. You're like, and then this guy comes and tells you a story like that, and you're like, this has to work. So this has to work. It has to work. It's valuable. And so stories like that, they really just give me reason to keep fighting when I no longer want to fight.
All right. So now in the collective, I know there are, in my mind, hundreds of lives, especially young guys who've like come through and they've contributed their time and their talent and their energy towards you in ways that I find really astounding. So right now, what's the collective? When you say this is our vision, this is what we're going for, what is the movement going towards, and what are you carrying?
Yeah, well, this is how we phrase it. We say we're helping young people to find purpose in God for life on earth. That's what we say. And my imagination from the beginning of that transition from HLP Banter Collective was that every person that you empower to do something that is inherently theirs to do, you empower someone to help so many more people answer very difficult questions. And so now, having done it for a few years now, and having learned a lot of things, I see the value in the people who are like me, first of all, ignorant and just surfing through the waves of life, that if you capture them in those formative stages and show them that there is more, that you have permission to consider certain things, to embrace certain practices, growth and development, that when you do that, you create a huge opportunity for them to do something significant for a lot more people. And you think about like our community, like these days, I feel like an old person because I spend a lot of time thinking about like things that I used not to care about, but just community, like how poor we are, broken infrastructures in our society, and keep thinking how one person can fix that thing, another person can fix the other thing, another person can fix the other thing. And if what we do helps to find that person and get them committed to that vision so that they fix that thing that they can fix. Then, we're literally going to make the world a better place. And motivation-wise, I think about my kids and how, so like now, a lot of the people around me are 22, 21, my firstborn is 8 now. So 10 years from now, let's go with 13 years from now, those kids who are around me will be my age, right? And my daughter, who is 8, will be their age. The idea that because of the value we have created for those people, they're able to create the same value for my kids in ways that I may not give them because I'm their dad. Yeah, dad, you don't understand, I'll just never be that voice. I'll be a certain type of voice, safety and what? When it comes to being cool, I don't think I'll ever be that.
No chance.
Yeah, I don't know if the chance for that is high, but if there is an environment that is positive, it's nourishing, it sees opportunity for growth and development that helps more people, then yeah, we create it now and realize it in the future. And so that's how I see it today. Like Collective has that opportunity to capture young people. And the nice thing about young people is they're not as frustrated about the world as some of the older folks are, you and me. But give them hope, show them their true strength, give them facilitation where possible in terms of permission to do things. And they do the things, they see them working, and maybe they can lead the next couple of years with wide-eyed expectation of positive change and literally make the world a better place. So that's what we're trying to do.
I mean, well, I hear a lot of people say those things, or they say, we're trying to change the world to make it a better place. I might be selling tobacco, but it's like every company will say that.
Yeah.
We'll have that as a branding.
Yeah.
It's a different thing to actually do it.
Yeah.
For me, the thing that really touched me was when you were speaking about like the outreach
Mm-hmm.
you do. I don't know if you're comfortable speaking about like the outreach you do in the communities.
Yeah.
And if there's anything people can do maybe to support or to partner with you guys.
Yeah, partner with us, send us money. All of the dollars. All the Benjamins. Yeah, I mean, so there was this idea that we could create an opportunity for young people to be involved in something useful in the community. And so I saw this somewhere online. Some guys built a warehouse. Well, I don't know if they built it or they rented it out. And they would collect non-perishable foods. And they had a registry for people who were really living in a poor way, for them to come and sign up and just get food. Because apparently there's enough food in the world for a lot of people. Anyway, so I saw that and I thought, that's amazing, that's interesting. I wonder if there's something like that we could do here. So it started as an idea. We called it My Kilo of Kindness. So whenever we'd have a fellowship, we'd tell kids, come with a kilo of kindness, and we'd be specific about what to bring. Bring a kilo of rice, that would be something that will not rot while we're storing it, non-perishable. Bring a kilo of posho or whatever. So we did it a few times and occasionally sent a few groups out to distribute that to some places. The first few times people distributed, I was not following them. To me, it was just, we've done a good thing, and I orchestrated it. I was part of its creation. Then someone had the idea of, what if we, instead of collecting one item and taking it out, we collect several items, such as you have like a gift bag, which feels more comprehensive. So when you take that to a poor family, you're giving them like supplies, and it's more comprehensive. Like if I give someone, here's a kilo of sugar, yay, what should I do with this sugar? I don't have tea, I don't have... Yeah. But if you give them sugar and then posho and then salt and then bushera and rice and beans, you've given them like something substantial. So that was a great idea. Again, it's a good idea. So we have a series of fellowships where we're collecting those items, and kids are generous, man. These items cost 5K. Like they don't cost too much money for certain types of people. And so they bring them in and we're collecting the gift bags. We're communicating about it, hashtag My Kilo of Kindness. And now we've partnered with, at that time, it was Vive Church at Oasis Mall and St. James in Moobs. And so on the day when we've collected the target amount of food, we send one group of people to Vive Church, one group of people to St. James, and one group starts from the studio. About 20 people each location, 20 to 25 people. And so with each location, like, it's a lot of liaising. Where are we going to go? We have like a criteria. It's not a lot of food, so we want to keep it simple. We don't want to make it too long. We want to do it in one morning. And the winning objective for us was, let us send young people, prepare them, they go, they do the thing, they come back, we debrief, what did you see, what did you learn, those kinds of things. So, on the day, in my mind, I'm like, I need to go. I need to be authentic about this, because so far it has just been a good idea. But I need to go, I need to participate, so that, it's authentic, first of all. It's not just a good idea. And I'm also telling all of our leaders, hey, make sure you participate. So we went. I was with a group that left from Moobs, we're like 20-something people, went to Kataza. Now, along that railway, because of how much time I don't spend there, like from the main road down on the railway, you see like a few, iron sheet houses. So the guy who scouted the place and said, let's go here, to our group, led us there. So we go with him. The group I'm with, we are maybe 8 people, and we're going to divide into 2 groups to go to. It's not a lot of food, like we have just a handful of gift bags. So our expectations were going to just meet a few people and we'll be done, we'll be back. We get there, and I could have never imagined, first of all, well, I know that the slummy situations are bad, but it's different when you talk to the people. And that's one of the things that we did. We got to talk to the people, and it's very different. It's very heartbreaking. Like, the life they're living just feels unreal. The number of children they're living with feels very, very unreal. And then their reaction, their response to a very small gift, because in my mind, this is nothing. Give them a kilo of rice. You see the wildest happiness you've ever seen in your life. And I'm like, why are you so excited about a kilo of rice, There's this kid who they gave a kilo of sugar, like she was the son of this widow. So this guy who is with us is like, this sugar is for Junior. Gives it to Junior. A guy grabs that kilo of sugar and runs the other side, like with just extreme happiness. And you're like, that doesn't make sense. It's sugar. Man, there's that. But then, like, as we're walking through, you start to see that you are seeing one house or 2 or 3. But when you start to walk, like, behind it, there's like 100. It goes deep, and you would never see it, because it goes very deep inside. And all these guys, they have a community, they're there. And it's so heartbreaking, the number of children you'll find. And they just want soap, man. They're not even asking for the food. They're like, you have soap? That's amazing. Can I have some soap, like a slice of soap? And you're like, man, I only have like 8 bars of soap here too. It was so weird how difficult a lot of people's lives are. But it was so empowering to see how much life came into a small community, because young people were generous with 1 kilo of kindness. When it came together, it became pretty substantial. And while it was happening for our small group, I couldn't help thinking, this is happening in many places today. This Saturday morning, this is happening in many places. It was such an experience, man. And then we come back, we're debriefing with the guys, and you can see the kids, they're 21, 22, and they're talking about, man, I feel like I can help this family more consistent. Like, I connected with these guys, I can easily take for them a kilo of bushera every month. I can afford it. It's not even like a thought to me. But that's their own thought, that's their own initiative that they're having. And so I thought, man, that's amazing. There's 2 worlds of lives being impacted right now. They're the people we visited, knowing that we can't solve your problems, but here's a small contribution. But then there's the people who we sent who are saying, man, I'm actually able to make a difference. The common phrase that was happening is that I don't have to wait for a big organization to do something. I can actually do the thing myself in a small way, and it's significant. That was huge. And so it's become a thing that we want to figure out how to grow, how to scale, how to make it a normal part of how we fellowship, that do something for people in need. Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's the meaning of being the hands and feet of God in the world. Right? Actually taking action where you are and flowering where you've been planted. So I think that's awesome. So I'm going to put the information at the bottom of this video so that people can get in touch.
Assured.
Anyone who has any ideas, who wants to join in.
And dollars.
Yeah, and dollars. I don't know if you have any last words, anything you want to say to my 12 followers.
Yeah, subscribe to his channel, because he doesn't say that.
I've refused to say it.
Comment, say kind things, or not so kind things.
Yeah.
But yeah, live large. There's a scripture I like, 2 Corinthians 6, in the Message interpretation, that says that the smallness you feel comes from within you. Live openly and expansively. So hey, live openly and expansively.
Thanks, man.